I love making biscuits and decorating them is one of my favourite things. So I thought I'd show you how to royal ice some little biscuits to make some elegant tea party biscuits like these. So first of all, what you need to do is obviously have your lovely biscuits. These ones are some vanilla butter biscuits. And then you need to mix up some royal icing. And from the royal icing, once you've made it into stiff royal icing, you need to have the stiff royal icing in here so it's of a pipeable consistency. And then you need to have some more watered down icing, either in more piping bags or in these little icing bottles. So the first thing you need to do is to pipe an outline with the royal icing. If you're a beginner, it's really useful to start with biscuits that have got straight edges, so then you can just pipe from one corner to the other. So don't make it difficult for yourself by starting with something that's very complex. And I'm just going to add on a few little candles and some little flames on top. So once you've piped the outline, it's really important to be patient and to let the whole of the piped outline dry and set completely. So this one is one that I've made earlier and it's completely dry now around the edges. If it's not completely dry, when you try to flood it with the slightly runnier icing, the edges will collapse and it won't hold the frame as you want it to. I've added pink colouring to this icing, but obviously you can make this in any colour you choose. I'm just going to use a cocktail stick to push it into the corners. This is also good so you can make sure that it doesn't overflow. I've also got some white icing mixed up, so I'm just going to use that for the bottom layer of the cake. And again, just push it into the corners. And once you've done this and filled it all with the flooded icing, you have to be really patient. You need to leave it for at least 4 hours, ideally overnight, and make sure that they're completely set before you start to try and decorate it. It can be very frustrating if you think that it's dry and then it's still wet underneath and all the decorations start sinking in. And here's a little teacup one as well, which is perfect for our tea party, so I'm just going to decorate that one whilst we're here. So once the icing's completely set and dry, then you can decorate them however you want to. But one of the things that I think is quite nice to do is to make some little handmade flower decorations. And I'm just going to pipe some middles onto those, just so that they finish off all of our decorating. And I like to make a big batch of these, and then I've got them all ready to decorate my biscuits and cupcakes whenever I want to make some. And once these have all dried, you can then use your royal icing to stick them onto your decorations. You might also want to use your royal icing to pipe on a few extra little decorations. I think that decorating biscuits like this just gives them a really special touch. Now we're going to make a delicious fruit cake, a Dundee cake.
Aha, Dundee cake.
So Dundee cakes were originally from Scotland in the 19th century and were apparently produced by the marmalade factory, Keeler's.
Well, Dundee was the home of marmalade. That's apparently where it was invented, so that makes sense.
Fantastic. This cake, it's got fruit and it's got some nuts in it. It doesn't actually have any cherries in it, so lots of fruit cakes would have done that. And apparently another Scottish legend is that Mary Queen of Scots didn't like glacier cherries in her cakes, so this was one of her favourites.
I hate fussy people.
So
no glacier cherries, nuts.
And lots of dried fruit and some ground almonds to keep it extra moist.
Booze?
No alcohol in it, but some lemon zest. So let's cream together our butter and sugar. So we've got lovely soft squidgy butter.
Ooh. And we're not doing this with a whisk?
No, we're not going to with this one. This isn't so much about getting the air into it. It will be quite nice and light because of the ingredients that we're putting in. But we're using a soft light brown sugar here. We will still beat it a bit, but I don't think we need to use the whisk, and then we can use the same spoon all the way through the process.
Saves on the washing up.
Absolutely, always a good thing.
So there's no actual marmalade in this?
No, not in this version, but this is my version of Dundee cake.
Miranda's Dundee cake. I think that's, look at that.
Lovely. So we are still getting the air in, and it just shows that even with a wooden spoon, you can still make it quite pale. That looks perfect. Okay, now let's break our eggs into a bowl.
No shells.
I just think it's always worth checking. And just gently break them up with a fork. There we go. And again, we're going to add that a little at a time.
Oops. Have you ever been to Dundee?
I have actually, yes.
The city of discovery. The marmalade factory is still there.
I love your story. Tell us the story about the marmalade.
Well, supposedly all these Seville oranges either came off a ship and everyone tried to eat them, but obviously they're very bitter, so no one knew what to do with them. So one enterprising lady didn't want to see all these oranges go to waste because they were quite a rarity. So she added sugar to them and thus created the sort of first ever marmalade.
It's a good story.
Truth should never come in the way of a good story.
Okay, how's that looking? It also looks fantastic. Just need to make sure that all the eggs are beaten in.
Yeah. It's a bit runnier than the sponge batter, but I suppose
We've got quite a lot of ingredients to add in. And we're also going to add 1 tablespoon of milk. And just mix that in. Okay, and then a teaspoon of zest, so I'll just put roughly a teaspoon. I think this makes it even lighter tasting as well and fresher.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, now we need to add in all the remaining ingredients except for the flaked almonds, so we'll just put those to one side.
So we don't need to sift the flour?
Well, we could sift it, but I never think that. I think if it's a really light and airy sponge, you need to. This is a slightly denser cake, although it is still moist and quite crumbly. I just think it doesn't need to add it. And we can add in all the other ingredients as well. So we've got sultanas. Lovely dried currants. And then we've got some ground almonds. Makes cakes last really well as well.
Really?
The ground almonds. If you add a little bit to your sponge cake, it makes it last a bit longer. And then if you want to just crush, I like adding a few walnuts. I just think it adds a sort of really homely, quite rustic texture to it. Just crush them up a little bit. And you could swap these for almonds if you preferred.
Or pecans?
Absolutely.
If you're going all Yankee. Voila.
Just going to add a pinch of salt. Bring out all those flavours, and then we're going to stir all of that in. So it's a really quick and simple cake, and actually it's lovely to have in the tin at home because you can keep on going back and slicing it. It lasts a couple of weeks beautifully.
I always think it's a good cake to take on picnics because it holds its shape really well.
Yeah.
So when we go walking the hills up in Scotland, we always take a slice of Dundee cake or fruit cake.
It's delicious. It's great for energy.
That probably does negate the goodness of the walk. Sitting
Lots
on the
of
top of the
good
hill, shoving cake in.
There we go. So once it's completely mixed, we need to scrape it into the prepared tin. And this is just lined with baking paper, greased with butter, and made it a little bit taller. So if the cake does rise up, it's got a little bit of support rather than it overflowing.
Does it stop the edges burning as well?
It does a little bit. If you really are concerned about the edges burning, which it shouldn't because the temperature is only going to be 170 degrees. But sometimes with fruitcakes or cakes like this, if you put brown paper around the outside and tie it with string, it just protects it a little bit.
Almost
and
like
actually,
insulating a layer.
Just a bit of protection from the sort of fierceness of the oven. What we are actually going to do is cover the top with a little bit of paper or foil, and then it just stops it burning on the top before the inside's cooked through completely.
So I'm good to just throw it in?
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of those great cakes that it's really quick to make, and then you can just pop it in the oven for a couple of hours and you don't really have to think about it. Comes out and it's all perfectly done. And we just want to smooth it down. Not press it down too much, just to just smooth it.
When do you make your Christmas cake every year?
Well, I'd love to say that I'm really organised and I always make it in sort of October, November time. But it doesn't always happen, because often what happens is I make one and then I end up giving it away to someone else and then I have to make a rushed one just before Christmas.
I'm really pleased with that. Look.
It looks fantastic. Now we're just going to pop some nuts on top. So on traditional Dundee cake, it would often be blanched almonds in circles, but just as a quicker, sort of speedier thing, I thought we'd put some flaked almonds on top.
Just toss a few on.
Exactly. But if you want to be a bit more creative, you can arrange them perfectly. That looks lovely. Might want to just press them in a little. And they'll come out all golden and toasted on top. And one of the reasons we want to cover it with foil before it goes into the oven.
So the nuts don't burn.
So the nuts don't burn. Well
no
done.
one wants burnt nuts.
So what we're going to do is we're going to pop them into the preheated oven. The oven needs to be at 170 degrees with the foil on top. And then after about an hour and a half, we're going to take it out, take the foil off, pop it back in the oven for another 25 to 30 minutes. And then with fruit cake, it's often worth checking with a skewer that the skewers come out clean. Check that it's all beautifully baked.
Excellent. I can't wait to smell it.
And it will smell amazing while it's cooking.
It smells pretty good already.
Look at our Dundee cakes. Don't they look fantastic?
They do. They've got a lovely big rise on them. They're dense.
Beautifully domed.
Thank you.
And not burnt, you see?
Yeah.
Gorgeous on top, golden.
What's this?
This is so we can get it out of the tin.
Right.
So what we're going to do, got our lovely loose bottom tin. Just going to stand it on top and then slide the tin down.
That is so clever because I have damaged cakes in the past trying to get them out of the tin. I never even thought of that. It's quite slippy on the bottom. Oh, this is, oh yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
And then carefully.
Wow, look at that.
Looks fantastic. And then we should be able to just, it's quite a firm cake. So what we should be able to do is just we want to slide the paper off. It looks gorgeous.
That is a cake to be proud of, people. That is a cake to be proud of. Oh, I wish you could smell this. It smells so good.
Is that going to be perfect for your long walks up the mountains?
It will be. Or just sitting down with a cup of tea.
Shall we try it?
Rude not to. It's definitely a lot firmer than a sponge, but it's a
much denser cake.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's great then, isn't it? You can have it for picnics in the garden or tea party in the garden or for your hill walks.
Look at that.
That looks fabulous.
Still nice and moist in the middle. I'm really pleased with that.
What do you think?
It's delicious.
Good for our afternoon tea?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try it.
Good cake.
It's lovely. Well done.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to show you how to make a really simple buttercream. Buttercream is a fantastic thing to be able to make. You can use it for sandwiching cakes together, for topping cakes, for decorating cupcakes, for making a crumb coat around the outside of your cake and then covering with ganache or with icing, and for sandwiching together biscuits. So what do we need to do? We need, first of all, really soft and squidgy butter. It's very important that your butter's really soft. If it's not really soft, you won't have a lovely creamy buttercream. So I'm putting in 125 grams of really soft butter. I use unsalted, but it is fine with salted as well. And then I'm adding 400 grams of icing sugar. I'm just going to add half of it to begin with. Well, roughly half. 40 millilitres of milk, and then 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now you can just mix this up with a fork or with a whisk, a hand whisk, but I'm actually going to use the electric whisk. If you're doing it by hand with just a fork or a whisk, then it is worth probably sieving your icing sugar beforehand. But as I'm using an electric whisk, I don't need to sieve it beforehand. There we go, it's lovely and creamy. I'm now going to add the rest of the icing sugar. You don't want to add it all at the beginning because it might fly out all over the place. It's coming together beautifully. I'm now going to turn it up to really high speed just so it's really light and airy. There you go, that looks delicious. And if you want it to go really pale white, you need to keep on beating it. And the longer you beat it for, if you beat it for 3 or 4 minutes, it will go an even paler colour. The other thing that it's really nice to do is to colour your buttercream. So just by adding a few little drops of food colouring, you can turn it into a pretty pink or another colour that you want to have for whatever theme you're decorating your cakes with. So I'm going to use a cocktail stick. I'm just going to use a tiny bit of pink colour paste here. Just add a few dabs. And we'll just mix it in before adding a little bit more if we need it. Okay. See, it's starting to become lovely pale pink. Tiny little bit more. The other thing you could add is you could add jam or some squashed strawberries in order to flavour it or to make it coloured as well at this stage. Or you might want to flavour your buttercream. You might want to add the zest of a lemon, some cocoa powder, or perhaps some melted chocolate. Now I'm going to use my buttercream to decorate some cupcakes. I've put a piping nozzle onto the end of my piping bag here, and I'm just going to pop it into the glass, just so it's a bit easier to fill it. You could use a jug or something similar, or just scrape it in. I just tend to get in a dreadful mess. I've got a nozzle on the end that's going to make a rose swirl, but there's lots of different types of nozzles you can use to make different patterns on the top of your cupcakes. Okay. So, if you've got this similar kind of nozzle and you want to make a rose swirl, you just need to do a spiral or a snail type of shape on the top of the cupcakes. Make sure you tighten it at the top and apply even pressure. It's better not to fill the bag too full, so you've got a bit to tighten around like this so you can hold it firmly. So starting in the middle, and I'm going to go round. This also looks pretty in other colours, or you might want to mix up the colours and have a few in pink, a few in lilac perhaps, or a few just plain vanilla ones. It's also lovely with all the different flavours that we talked about earlier, chocolate or lemon, or perhaps a coffee, to make them absolutely delicious. There we go. So I've decorated these with a pretty rose swirl using the piping bag, but you can also just simply use a palette knife and still have a very pretty decoration on top with the buttercream. And here's some just lovely vanilla buttercream that we made earlier. So what you want to do, start with a large dollop of buttercream, depending on how much you like, obviously. And then use the palette knife to just ease it up to the edges. It makes a pretty swirl. So we'll do a few like that as well. We're now going to make some pretty decorations out of sugar paste to go on top. You could use fresh flowers or some shop-bought decorations. It's just lovely to have something pretty to decorate your cupcakes with. Here we've got some sugar florist paste. This goes completely firm, or you can use sugar paste, which just stays slightly softer. It just depends on sort of personal preference. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of icing sugar. Good to use the duster so you don't add too much. And then I'm using a non-stick rolling pin. This is one of my favourite tools for decorating and for rolling out pastry and biscuits. You want to get it really nice and thin, otherwise they'll be too chunky and they won't be sort of attractive on top of the cakes. And I've got some great little stamping out cutters here to make little flower shapes. So we'll just do a few of those. Just press it in firmly so it's cut through. And then so you get a nice smooth clean edge, just rub it gently in your icing sugar and press out like that. If you make them out of the sugar florist paste, they'll last for about 6 months and you can just have a little supply made up and ready to use on all of your cupcakes. Also got some little butterflies. If you hang the little butterflies over the edge of something, just like this, then they will sit in the shape of a butterfly that looks like it's just landed on your cake. I think we've got plenty now. I'm going to leave those to firm up and get on with decorating some of the other cupcakes. We've got some lovely edible flowers just picked straight from the garden. We've got some little pansies, some little daisies, some tiny geraniums and some little sprigs of lavender. So I think they'll look lovely on these cakes and it's lovely for a garden tea party. Obviously make sure that they are edible and that they are safe for you to have on your cakes. These need to be put on just before you're about to serve the cakes, otherwise they'll go all brown and wilted. If you want them to last a bit longer, you could crystallise them just with a little bit of raw egg white whisked up and then dipped into a tiny bit of caster sugar, but you'll need to do that about 24 hours in advance. Let's pop some of those sugar decorations we made on top of these ones with the rose swirl. If you've got some royal icing made up, it might be nice to pipe some little centres to your flowers or to the middles of the butterflies just to give an extra little bit of colour on top of the cakes. And then I think we'll just add just a few tiny little sprinkles on top of these ones too. So there we go, 2 lots of pretty cupcakes decorated for a lovely garden tea party.